What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Broad Street Boys. And oh my God, we have a lot to talk about today. Oh my gosh, great Eagles episode here. We did one a few weeks ago just about the overall outlook on the year, and here we are in our bye week, week 5, and lots of things to talk about. Whether it's Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, defense, everything, the team as a whole. Like there's some things we need to talk about. Now, starting off, I'm just going to recap. Week 1, we looked really good against the Packers in Brazil, which was kind of a scary game for me because I know, what's his name, Jordan Love can be really good, and he's shown that he could be really good. So that's very interesting that we actually beat them. And we looked really good both on offense. I mean, defense didn't look great, but I will tell you right now, Quinyon Mitchell is a stud. And our corners looked really good in that game, too. So we'll get to that later. But that was a win. The Falcons loss was one of the most, how do I put this, most shocking losses in the regular season for the Eagles that I can remember in a long time. When they scored that field goal, I was like, there's no way they have to go the full length of the field. And then they went the full length of the field with time left somehow. That was one of the craziest drives I've seen in a long time. And in that game, a ton of controversy. Again, we'll get into coaching. Saquon Barkley dropped the ball, but we'll also get to that play call. We'll get to all of that, trust me. And then week after, we're all down after that, and then all of a sudden they come out and beat to that point, the best offense in the league, points-wise, who have put up 40 points in every single week, held them to 12 somehow. And then we won that game against the Saints, and the defense looked amazing. They kept us in that game. And the offense didn't even score any points in that first half and for the most of the third quarter. And then this past game happens, and we get absolutely crushed in Tampa Bay. So very interesting things just in general. It's weird. Now, the first thing I will say is Nick Sirianni is lucky that the bye is not in like 2 or 3 weeks, and the bye is now. Because if we're talking, same schedule, if the bye is after like the Jacksonville game or even the Cowboys game on November 10th, Nick Sirianni probably wouldn't be the coach. I'm gonna be honest. I am not one of those guys like completely shit on Nick Sirianni. Like, I mean, if anything, I kind of feel bad for him because he doesn't have a role, and then he keeps being asked about the role, and he has nothing to say. Except I don't love the arrogance he brings, and I feel like almost in a way like there are so. Okay, let me gather all the thoughts. In other teams, there are coaches that are either defensive minded, offensive minded, like coaches, like head coaches, but they don't call the plays, or they're really spirit. Like Dan Campbell doesn't really call the plays. However, he is the spirit of that team. And then there's a ton of other examples of that where it's just the coordinator, which is great. But Sirianni is not really great at motivating. So like if that's your role and then your team looks like stunned against the Buccaneers, who you just sucked against to end your season last year, which was a disaster. That's embarrassing. At least for me, like if I'm the head coach, I'm embarrassed from that. So there's that element, and the fact that, I mean, I have nothing to back this up other than like pure body language and what I've heard from like press conferences. That is the only thing. I have no insider stuff at all. But the Sirianni Hurts situation, I mean, I just don't think they like each other, or they don't get along, or they have different opinions on how the offense should be run, and it doesn't look like super well. And I mean, Kellen Moore is helping, but I heard on the radio today or yesterday when I think it was Ray Diddy was talking about this, but we were guaranteed like this huge motion type of team, but we're also in the last quarter of the team's in motion. Like, why are we not motioning? At that point, it's a scheme issue, which means it's a Sirianni issue. And I'm not gonna lie, if you don't motion, then how will you be truly successful on every single down? Then all of a sudden your offense becomes predictable, and then you know when we're running with Saquon Barkley. And then speaking of that, Saquon Barkley, yes, he has pretty much he's been getting around 25 to 30 carries a game, which is great. I love him. But it's weird because it doesn't feel like the 25-30 carries a game. It more feels like like they're running him in weird situations, like the Falcons game. I'll bring that up right now. Why are we not running the ball? It's what I think it was 3rd and 2, and I mean I get that they're packing the box, and I get that you were kind of hurt in that game, and you haven't really ran the ball too well. Saquon has yet to have a touchdown, all that stuff, whatever. But for 2 yards, you're paying this guy a premium for being a running back, and he can't get 2 yards. Like that's embarrassing. And I feel like he could have, even though they're stacking the box, and then they do put out some motion and throw it to him, and he just misses it. And I don't put. I mean, people were putting that more on Saquon Barkley, but there were plays leading up to that shouldn't have been a thing, and that Jalen Hurts willed his way to actually be like move down the field. Like that was the drive where he had to run and use his legs more than often to get first downs on. I think it was a fourth down and the 3rd down. He had to use his legs, and he did it successfully. So that's just something that's really interesting. And I feel like whenever I'm watching the game, Jalen Hurts never uses his legs like in the first half, and then all of a sudden you're down in the second half, and he's like, oh shit, I got to use my legs. So then he uses his legs. Like that's just how it is. And I feel like that's really weird. Like and it's very successful. Like I mean, obviously you don't want to run every play, so that he doesn't get hurt. But I don't know, maybe it would help like move the offense a little bit, like not score 16 points against the Bucks. Like that would be cool. And that Bucks game was a total shit show. I mean, really bad. I mean, like defense wise, offense wise, is really not fun to watch. And I'm just gonna try to stick to one thing at a time because I know I'm going everywhere. But Jalen Hurts himself, I don't hate how he's playing. It's just weird about how much he's turning the ball over. Because when he initially came out of college and when he took over for Carson Wentz, his thing was he didn't really turn the ball over. And then all of a sudden, from last year into this year, he has the most interceptions and turnovers in the league. So it's just it's the sudden change that is really weird to me. Like if all of a sudden like you would like every other game you have a turnover, like that's not. I mean that's fine, but there's also situations. But there are some balls that he's throwing that you have no business even thinking about throwing. Like that one in the Saints game, it's his first interception. They're almost in the red zone, or maybe even in the red zone, and he forces it to Devontae Smith. But he throws it right to the Honey Badger. Good play by Tyrann Mathieu, but right to the safety. Like that was a dumb one. He's fumbling a lot more. And yes, there's been a few where the guys would just smack the ball as he's running, so it's not really his fault, but still a turnover. So those have been really weird to me as I'm watching. Cause I mean, this is the guy 2 years ago in the Super Bowl years that was playing at a MVP type level. And if he played all the games, then he would have won MVP. And I feel like I keep saying that about really good quarterbacks, like Carson Wentz, exact same thing. I mean, it's just very weird, and I feel like he looks slower still. I mean, he looks better than what he did last year. Last year he's out of here, but he still does look slower, and he still looks hesitant to run, which I get, like injury wise, like he's important, but something's off, something's weird. Like I feel like it's consistent. Which I was thinking like, okay, maybe the coordinators, whatever, like from last year, but it might be Sirianni because it's still a little weird to me. Like the way that he's super hesitant, still a little weird. So it's just something to keep your eye on. Just talk about Nick Sirianni, and now this defense. This defense is weird. Like for some reason, Josh Huff has one tackle in 4 games, which is crazy, and he just got that this last time. Mr. Huff is on his ass more than he's not. I don't get it. Bryce Huff is always like laying on the ground. He gets pinned by the tackle, but then immediately sits down and he slips. Is that a coaching thing? Is that like a personal thing? Like I don't know. And listen, this is no shade. I'm just this honest like observation of what I'm watching. Like I think Bryce Huff can turn it around, right? But it's got to happen now, so then you don't get more hate online than you already are. You have one tackle, and we're paying you more than any person on that line. Like you should not have one tackle. Like Milton Williams should not have more sacks and more tackles than you, even though he has been one of the best interior tackles. Period. So very weird. And Jordan Davis has been okay. Still, like he's like his thing was like he needs to be here, like to like stop that run because he's huge. He's a huge human, but he's not doing. I think he has one sack and a bunch of tackles, but like you're just not seeing the impact that a 13th overall pick in the first round should have. Now Jalen Carter, on the other hand, is a dog. I mean, he crushed it in that Saints game. I think he was involved in like 70% of the plays. That's just a number I'm throwing out, but I swear he was in on every single defensive play. But then all of a sudden he'll go completely cold, like the Bucks game. Like where even was Jalen Carter, or even the Falcons game, where was Jalen Carter? So it's weird that he goes on this crazy tear and then you don't see him at all. Now I will say, what's it called, the Falcons game, I think it was, he was benched some personal issues, which is an issue considering where he came from in college. And I get it. Like, I mean, if it's a character thing, it's a character thing. Like, whatever. Like, that's you got to try to coach that. But he's one of the most important people on this team, and I know that they're probably trying to make a statement, and which is probably why he didn't do anything in the Falcons game, why he didn't start. And I get it. But he's so important, and he needs to know that he's that important. Like I feel like in general as a player, like he himself needs to know that. So it's very interesting for me to watch just in general. I mean, from just Harrisonburg, Virginia, where I am at JMU, like it's just very weird to watch. And I thought I was gonna like the Vic Fangio zone, but the not blitzing part is really frustrating when your line can't get any pressure at all. So then Kirk Cousins or Derek Carr or Baker Mayfield just sit back there and wait for someone to get open because there's no pressure on them. Or the fact that Vic Fangio, I mean, this is a total take, but I mean, I guess I'll say it. Like maybe it's the fact that Vic Fangio has been in the league for so long that they know how to beat his defenses. But at the same time, he's a good coach. So I don't really know what's happening with that defense. Quinyon Mitchell has been a standout star to me. Like that guy has been a stud. From top to bottom, I mean, he's been awesome. I've been genuinely impressed by him. I've been impressed with Zach Bond, other than the Falcons game. By the way, I mean, people don't love that. He did not look good in the Falcons game. I'll tell you that now. And he didn't look great last game, but he is still top 5 in tackles in the entire National Football League. So he can't be that bad. And then just in general, like that line's annoying me. Like Josh Sweat, we paid you a lot of money. You're not really doing a whole lot. I mean, you're doing more than Bryce Huff, but still frustrating. Brandon Graham's gonna be Brandon Graham. He already has a ton of he's Brandon Graham, but he's also on the older side. Like you don't know what you're gonna get from Brandon Graham for the last half, actually last more than a half than this year. So it's very interesting. And I think the Bucks game. I mean, I'll just zone in on that game. I mean, it was weird because we literally didn't have any. I don't think there was a wide receiver target in the first half, or at least there was like one or two. And I know Jahan Dotson, like I know you're kind of new, but at the same time, I feel like they're not scheming him the way that he should be schemed. Like Jahan Dotson is a speedster. Like why are we not seeing end arounds with Jahan Dotson? Like why are we not seeing a ton of motion with Jahan Dotson, similar to how you do with Devontae Smith, especially when he's your number one? Like why? I don't get it. Like, or it's a thing that he's just not getting open, or it's a character thing because I know Washington didn't really want him. That's why he was let go. Not let go, traded, but you know what I mean. Like there were reports about the character issue or whatever they called it. I don't like that word, but maybe it could be that. But it was just really weird to see only Paris Campbell catch that touchdown, and Britton Covey still being hurt. I mean, Britton Covey, yes, I mean he's like your third string, fourth string guy, but let's be honest here, he kind of did pretty well in his first 3 games. So like it was just weird to see no one out there. And I mean, Dallas Goedert looked really good in that Saints game. That looked fine in the Bucks game, and then was basically non-existent in the first 2 games, which was weird to me because Dallas Goedert, when he gets the ball in his hands, he's not like Zach Ertz. I mean, Zach Ertz is one of the more pure route running, just like catcher tight ends that I've ever seen. But Zach Ertz as like the runner, like when he has the ball in his hands, he'll go down as soon as you touch him. Dallas Goedert, as soon as you get the ball in his hands, he's gonna run your ass over. Like he will lower that shoulder and he will run your ass over. So I don't know why we're not seeing more design stuff for him. I mean, we're seeing it more now, but in the first 2 games we saw like nothing. It was like nothing. Like they were either forcing him the ball or he wasn't getting the ball at all, which was really weird for someone like me to watch. Because I'm a big Dallas Goedert guy. I'm a big fan of him. Like I think he's a top 7, 8 tight end in the entire. when he's like him. Maybe even top five too. Like when Dallas Goedert is Dallas Goedert, he's awesome, and when he's starting to, he's awesome. And that could be like him not getting open thing. It could be who knows. Um, but yeah, very very interesting. I do want to go through the next few weeks because the next few weeks could define this team because we are 2-2, and I can tell you right now that everybody is pissed either on Twitter or everywhere. And I feel like now more than I've ever seen, the Eagles are talked about in the national media more. Like, why is Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee always talking about the Eagles every day? Like, talk about your Cowboys. I don't know. But the next few weeks are interesting. Cleveland, we should beat Cleveland. Deshaun Watson is awful. So please beat Cleveland and please beat the Giants. They're also terrible. And then of what I've seen from the Bengals and the Jags, I feel like we should beat them too. Like the Bengals, we're going to be at the Bengals, which could, anything could happen, but let's be honest here, they have not looked good. It's not really anyone's fault. It's just the skills issue. Like, Joe Burrow has looked fine, and Jamar Chase is currently not on a contract. So, that's probably an issue, but like, I feel like we could definitely beat those two teams, and then the Jaguars, who I think who have looked terrible. Unfortunately, I love Doug Peterson, and I love him. I actually like Trevor Lawrence, but they have looked awful. So it's going to be an interesting 4 weeks because we should beat all four of these teams, but it's one of those scenarios where as soon as we lose to one, like the city's going to explode. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting for me as a fan to watch from afar. So that'll just be crazy, just like in general. Now I do want to talk about Saquon Barkley again. Saquon has looked like the best running back in the entire league because McCaffrey's hurt. There's a ton of injuries all over the place, but Saquon Barkley's looked amazing. I think, obviously, you don't want to run into the ground and then get him hurt, but he looks as explosive as he did in his rookie year. Like, he's back. Saquon Barkley is back. And I can tell he enjoys being here. So I think that's really encouraging as like a fan. Like, I'm a big fan of Saquon. I know might have said this in the past, but a guy like Saquon and Jahan Dotson literally got me into college football because I grew up in the Philadelphia area and I rooted for Penn State. So like those two guys, literally got me into football, and the fact that they're on my team is awesome. One playing at a crazy clip, and the other one not playing at a crazy clip. So very interesting with all of that. And I thought also, even when A.J. Brown was hurt, I thought Devontae Smith looked like a stud again too. He looked awesome until that dirty ass hit. It wasn't dirty. I'll change that. It wasn't dirty, I guess, because they didn't blow the whistle, but I feel like he went for the head, and I didn't love that. And seeing Devontae Smith down in his home state really made me feel bad for him. So, very interesting times coming up here. I'm thinking of what I've seen from A.J. Brown on Instagram. He's been posting crazy on Instagram. He should be back against the Browns next week. Same with Devontae Smith. So that's hopefully we have everybody back and we can just stay healthy, because I know there's been so many injuries throughout this entire year. So if we just stay healthy, we'll be fine. But it's definitely something to keep an eye out for. And we need Lane Johnson back. Fred Johnson has been good, fine. Like, you can't really expect much from a backup tackle, but he's been cool. He's been good. Good locker room guy too. I love the he started to cry when he was going to start or something like that. I saw that on Twitter. That's just what you want to see out of a player. But we need Lane Johnson back. Lane Johnson's one of the best tackles in Eagles history. So pretty cool. I just need everybody to get back, and we need to be back as a team. It is time to be back as a team. And yeah, last thing I'll say about Sirianni is it's very, it almost seems cliquey, if that makes any sense. And I really hated I know I try not to take interviews at the end of the games very heavily. Emotions are running high. You literally just want to go home and think about it or not think about it or whatever. And then you have to go to an interview. It's fine. I know. It's a lot. But the fact that someone asked him if he's running the plays and then he laughs at him and goes, "No, that's Kellen's job," and then defers his I don't really get it. And I to this day am with everyone in Philadelphia in that I don't get what Nick Sirianni's position is. Kellen Moore calls the offensive plays, obviously. Maybe Nick has some Nick Sirianni as the coach His job is to make like the critical decisions in the fourth down. He has said that in press conferences before. Like that's his job, and he's not a defensive minded coach, so that's all Vic Fangio. So what is his job? Is his job to suck on fourth down? Like is that his job? Is his job to make the wrong decision on fourth down and to go for it instead of kicking a field goal? Like is that his job? Because if it is his job, then he's not doing well at it. And why is he still here? But I'm telling you right now, if we lose to any of these next four teams, the Browns, the Giants, the Bengals, or the Jaguars, 4 in a row, if we lose to any of them big, you might not see Nick Sirianni as Eagles coach again. I'm calling it right now. So yeah, that might be all I have for today. I just want to get on and talk Eagles. Like I haven't been on here for a while. Also doing a Phillies one tomorrow. Keep an eye out for some Philly stuff. We're doing a little rebrand, new logo, all the good stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a nice day. Enjoy all the content that we're about to push out. Red October is coming. Phillies tomorrow. Have a good one. See ya.